For someone who claims they were smothered by royal life, British royal life that is, it does appear that one ex-royal for sure likes using those royal titles. Who are we talking about? Meghan Markle, of course. Hi, morning, Neil Sean here in the heart of London. Thank you for joining me. Hope you're keeping well. Now, whatever you're doing right now, whether you're having your morning coffee, afternoon tea, or simply getting ready for bed, you're not going to want to miss this particular breaking news story coming out of London. Now, you may have read, of course, and heard already about this particular story, but as ever, with anything to do with the ex-royals, it always develops legs and, more importantly, creates something of a stir. Now, we're talking about Meghan, who's decided, of course, to become a lobbyist. This is Meghan who decided that she couldn't cope with the British royal family simply because, she felt smothered and there were too many demands on her. Now, as we've already told you here on the show before, we truly believe, going through good sources, that Miss Markle seriously does have her eye, particularly on a move into politics. I'd be interested to know by all the American audience that watch this show exactly what you think about that. Would she actually get any political power? Would anyone vote for her? I'm not being cruel when I say these things. I'm just intrigued, in fact, as to, how you can go from the biggest family in the world and try and start again, particularly in your home country, on a ground that you know nothing about. But let's move on from that banking fiasco, shall we? Now, as we know, Meghan has decided to write to all of those politicians, and it's a really noble cause. But as she says in that short letter, over 1,000 words long, that it's not really about her privilege and her title. She's speaking out for all the other families that she feels should be heard because they're not heard. Now, we've heard this particularly sort of rhetoric from Harry and Meghan before, haven't we, about using their voices for people that can't be heard in their privilege. It becomes something of a mantra. But how has it gone down over here within the British royal circles? Well, it's interesting to note because her particular story, as ever, when she mentions about having to survive on those $4 salads or something at some cheapo salad bar, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is a lady who's been privately educated. Yes, privately educated by her now cancelled father. But over here, there's a groundswell now more than ever, and that's all to do with this. When the ex-royals decided to step back from the royal world last year, there was an agreement from Our Gracious Majesty the Queen that they could keep their titles, something that really shocked a lot of people. And let me tell you, over here, people still want them stripped of their titles because a lot of people are basically saying they're monetizing them. I couldn't possibly comment, but nonetheless, I'm sure certain doors open if you're a former member of the British monarchy, particularly with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex attached. Now, when you think about that letter also, what was interesting was they didn't just send it from Harry and Meghan or, Mr. and Mrs. Windsor Mountbatten or whatever they want to call themselves, but it was from the office of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. This is laughable in itself because that's the sort of letter you get from the royal family, from Prince Charles's office, Prince Andrew's office, that sort of stuff. So it does appear that they're sort of aping the life that they so claimed they wanted to leave behind. But as I say, Our Gracious Majesty the Queen allowed them to keep their titles, but there was a sort of, a couple of caveats in that, shall we say. One of them being that they couldn't use them on a daily basis, and of course for political gain, or anything that they felt brought the British monarchy into disrepute. Now, at this stage, we have to say, as ever, allegedly, nothing can be said has been brought into disrepute. But the fact that they continue to move into political circles using their titles, again, is a rather strange move. Now, for Harry and Meghan, of course, as she famously said, and we've said here many times on the show, titles simply mean nothing. So if they mean nothing, why on earth do they continue to use them? She used them recently when they were introduced at the Global Citizen event, and of course on that now infamous book, The Bench. It wouldn't be Her Majesty the Queen that could remove the titles. That would have to be at the bequest of the government. Yes, Her Majesty the Queen, and indeed Prince Charles, could make that suggestion, but the final decision will be down to the government. And right now for Harry and Meghan, it appears that our British government, along with many governments around the world, are busy with a pandemic. Not looking at two people who claim they want to be out of the spotlight, but simply do everything in their power to remain in the spotlight. And it hasn't gone unnoticed over here also by royal watchers that it's interesting to note, days after the success of His Royal Highness the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge's Earthshot Awards, and of course all the glittering sort of, specials surrounding that, Meghan and Harry once again come up with something that shines focus back on their plight. Good or bad, as I've said before, this royal battle seems far from over. Neil Sean in the heart of London.